Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to just say a couple of words and I'll introduce our very special guest this week on Minutes with Brett Live, which is streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I think I got all of those right. So thank you all for taking the time to join in. And if you've ever looked at somebody that has had and is having a very successful career, and at the same time, they have a beautiful family, and you've asked yourself, how are they able to do that? Because I think we all know the heavy demands of corporate life, or for those of you, there's many of you watching that are business owners. There's a lot of heavy demands on doing that and then balancing your family life. So that's why I've selected our special guest this week, and this is Mrs. Pamira Karagoz, who is currently the Chief Executive Officer and board member at QNB Finance Invest in Istanbul, Turkey. So she's live from Turkey right now, and she also has an MBA from the Chicago Booth School of Business as well. So her and many other credentials that I won't really get into now. But with that, Pamir, welcome to Minutes with Brett Live, and it's really terrific to have you here today.
Hi, Brett. Hello, everyone. It's really great to be here from Istanbul. It's summer. It's a beautiful day. So hi to everyone.
Yeah, that's great. And Pamir, why don't we just start by, if you could just maybe give a 60-second recap of your career since acquiring your MBA, and how that's really progressed up to what you're at now. Just a short recap to give the viewers a bit of background.
I'm a 23 years banker, I would say. My career started with Citibank, and then Barclays Bank, where we met actually with you, as you know, and then Mashrek Bank. So I have worked quite a few banks, international banks, on the consumer banking side. And I'm currently running a brokerage and investment banking operation in Turkey under QNB Finance Invest. So this is a very quick summary of what I did so far.
That's fantastic. And Pamir, how do you, let's just take your current role of CEO. How do you, in that role, we're just talking about professionally now, how do you define success? You can take this year or the next 5 years, your definition of success.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, success, when you define success, I think I always think about purpose first. And I think everyone should have a purpose in life. And it's not only about the job you do or whatever you are at, it affects all parts of your life. But we are mainly focused on the success at work. For me, whatever your purpose is, and whatever stage at you against that purpose, it's a factor of success. But I'm a person, not only, of course, we have big goals, everyone has big goals, but you need to find success in the small things as well. I think that's the way I kind of handle things. So I have always have big goals, but some daily goals, daily things that keeps me motivating, that gives me a sense of achievement. So this is the kind of thing I'm really, I think, trying to do myself and my team. But Brett, success definition in the business world, in the financial industry, is always first numbers, what you deliver in a quarter or in a year time. But it needs to be sustainable. And the world is rapidly changing, and the definition of success is also changing, from the past to the future. I have recently read the World Economic Forum's Future of the Job report, and the top 10 attributes that people should have to excel in their job in the future is getting towards to more attributes like analytical thinking, technology, complex problem solving, And one of the attributes there is really, I think this is very important, is the resilience, flexibility. These kind of things are getting, I think, quite more important as we faced in COVID-19. We have experienced a change of 10 years in a year. So this really, and I have seen people in my life around me that they are so hardworking, they are so clever, creative, but they are fragile. They are not flexible. So these are I think, kind of people who would really face struggles in the future. So the definition of success, in short, is changing. But the people, I think, who will adapt to change, who will be flexible, they will be, I think, more successful than the others.
I think that's a great point. I think that every single person around the world, some unfortunately have lost family and friends due to COVID, but and for those that have not, COVID has certainly changed more than one aspect of their life, I'm certain. And I think you raise a great point, and that it is important to anticipate what the future changes will be in business, so that you can be ready for them as well. So exactly. If you extend now that definition of success to your life, okay, because you're one person and we just talked about the business stuff, so we got that out of the way. Would you alter that definition at all, or how do you define success as yourself?
I think, as I told you, for my life, I have some big goals. I have a purpose, and my purpose is basically to live my life to the fullest. Actually, it's not that complex, but at every area of my life, it's not only about the business, it's also about my personal life, So I try to go hand in hand, and maybe we will talk it in a bit. I don't know, I am that successful of balancing it, but as you know, women have so many difficulties in the workforce. So it's kind of a bit more complex for a woman, or difficult for a woman to really excel in her job. But my success definition is the big things and the small things that I achieve, which really I want to achieve, that is in my horizon. So this is the kind of I approach success.
I think you're right. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of women. I've had women bosses who have been absolutely spectacular that I look up to this very day. I've had women peers as well in equal positions to me, and I've had women on my team, and I think you're right that definitely there is that form of, for lack of a better term, unconscious bias out there. So you are facing a headwind before you even start something, but I think that you're a living, breathing example of how you're able to not let that get in your way, because some people do and others don't, and you've really broken through that glass ceiling, as they say, to all the way to the pinnacle of the company that you're at. And I think that's really great. So I wanted to briefly acknowledge that. And what motivates you when you're having a tough day? Because I'm sure you have a lot of those, either family or work. And what motivates you to just keep going? Because you do keep going. I've never known you for a number of years, for way over a decade, going on 2 decades now. And I've never known you that when you get knocked down to stay down. You always get back up. But how do you motivate yourself to get back up and keep moving forward?
I think the easy question to that, easy answer to that would be, I really love my job. Whatever difficulties I face, I really have a positive attitude towards my job. And once you have, first of all, what I believe is, when you have your purpose, and when your interests are at the same place, and when your strengths are at the same place, it's a very good intersection of things. And this itself motivates you. This gives you a high motivation, regardless of the difficulties you face. I am in the financial industry in Turkey, the global economy, Turkish economy. So every day, we face something, a new regulation, a new COVID. So we cannot really get knocked down with the things happening around us. We really need to keep moving. We need to really find a way. So this is a kind of motivation I have always with me. And I think the motivation also changes over the years, Brett. When you start your career first, and then the later stage of your career, I think it kind of changes. To give you an example, I think when you start at the early stages, you will be motivated in a company where there's a high learning environment, where they groom you, they reward you, they fulfill you. And my career started at Citibank, and I'm so happy about it because Citibank had this culture. It really actually made me who I am now as a banker. I learned many things there, and that was itself highly motivating factor. And then as you groom in your job, as you build more experience, then it matters how much you contribute to your company, the problem that you solve, the new product that you launch, these kind of things, and the teams that you develop and groom. So this becomes then your motivating factor. But I think in a summary, if you really own your job, if you really like it, and if your values are really in line with what you do every day, this really brings high motivation and high success.
I think you raised an excellent point around all of those, but also the values part as well, because I've also known you very well, and for the audience, Pamir has the utmost highest values that she will never take a shortcut to get where she wants to get. And for those of you not familiar with the financial services industry, it's a highly regulated, as Pamir mentioned, industry that if you take one wrong step, that can be it. And so I think that that's a great, but if you never compromise your values, you'll never get in trouble with a regulator, because that's actually what they're attempting to do, is to hold everybody accountable to high values. And also, just for the audience, I just wanted to kind of insert something here. And Pamir, what is the inflation rate in Turkey right now?
It's around 14%.
Yeah. So for those of you that are used to 2 and 3%, and those Americans that are watching this thing and think that there's a problem developing at plus 3% inflation with the COVID economic rebound, put yourself in Pamir's shoes, and in Turkey, where you've got very solid double-digit inflation. And if you think there's a problem in America, it's nothing compared to Turkey from an inflation perspective. But I will say something as well, that I don't think inflation is necessarily a bad thing. I think nobody likes higher prices, but there's much more to it. And I've been to Turkey on the ground there, and it is a fantastic country. The economic growth, the prospects for the future are just absolutely incredible. It borders Asia, and so there's all sorts of big benefits to this. So for those of you watching TV later and you're hearing doom and gloom news about inflation, maybe this will put things in a bit of perspective. But inflation's not the total story. So there's always more to the story. But thanks for sharing that, Pamir, as well. And that does make your job much more complex, because interest rates obviously are in the double digits, I'm sure, as well, if inflation is, right?
Yeah.
So
and
you're in the you're in the investment business. So it's a very complex macroeconomic environment that Pamir's operating in. So not to deviate too much into that, but Pamir, now for the big question. How do you balance all of these demands that you've spoken about with your career and your family life? How do you do that? Do you have a method, or do you learn as you go? How does it work?
Most difficult question, really. I hope I balance, but the balance, I mean, the life is not white and black. So as I have been in the business for the last 23 years, my balance shifted towards job some days, and mostly to the job. And some days family came first, you know. And so this is like ups and downs. But you know, we talked a bit about the woman in the workforce. Just to give you some statistics, in the world there is 7.8 billion people, and for every 100 women there is 101 men. So they are pretty much equal. You know, we're pretty much equal. There's gender equality in the world. But when you look at the workforce, for every 61 men there is only 39 women. So the gender equality starts in the overall global workforce. And if you think about the pyramid, you know, for the women who are growing up in their career, as you take a step up and a step up and you look around, and there is less women and less women and less women. And we know the reasons, you know, the responsibilities, getting married, having a child, parent responsibilities are always on the shoulders of the woman, you know, things like that. So it's not easy. And actually, this is a real good coincidence, because you were, you know, we were talking, we were working with you. You were my boss when I got married and when I had a baby. So, and I was at a quite senior position. You know, in our job in Barclays together, we had 14 countries and we were traveling quite a lot. But what I do is, I think having an open communication at the work environment about your personal life, your personal requirements, and planning ahead. I think what I try to do at my best is planning ahead things really helped me. I remember, maybe you wouldn't remember, but when I got pregnant, I came to you, you know, and I told you, you know, Brett, I'm pregnant, and you asked me, Pamir, when is the due date, you know, and I said it's about 8 months later, and you were even shocked, you know. Oh, it's 8 months later, and you're telling me? Yes, I said, because it's you know, we have to plan it. We have to plan it. Right. And the other reason why I wanted to share at the time with you was traveling, you know, because at the first three months of my pregnancy, I didn't want to travel to Africa because we had to get some, you know, medicine, and India, you know, there were, you know, we had so many so far travels, like Indonesia. So, and I shared this with you, and you were very understanding, you know, you said, sure, no problem. So, you know, maybe this may be a small thing for you because you came from this culture, from an international thing, but these are the things that are missing in the workplace for women. And open communication with your boss. So many women are afraid to go to their bosses and talk about pregnancy, and the leave that they will take, you know, and the time off, etc. And the bosses are not so supportive about this. So these are the kind of facts. But during this time, also there was a time we had a very special circumstance, you know, that I was in Dubai, I was working in Barclays, and actually that's one of the jobs really excelled me in my career, which I really wanted to pursue. But also my husband had his own career, and he was in Istanbul. So and my husband he couldn't come to Dubai, so he was traveling back and forth. So we had to leave. We lived like this 4 years. So this is a huge sacrifice. And this is a kind of period, I would say, my balance shifted towards more to the job. But then a time came, and I said, actually at that time I was working in Maastricht, and actually I was even traveling in Egypt for a business. And then I realized this is too much, you know. And I have made a lot of sacrifice, and my husband also made a lot of sacrifice. But then this is the time now I should be back with my family, back in Istanbul. And I had a daughter, she was 2 years old. Then I took a step back in my career, kind of a step back, and I decided to move back to Turkey, even though I was doing great things, in Maastricht. And then it was a time of more balancing time. So the reason I'm telling this is it's never black and white. There are some sacrifices as a woman, but then it's possible. And there are so many inspiring and successful women around that make this possible. And in Turkey also, I see them a lot. In the international area, I see them a lot. All they need is a little support from their work environment and their husbands and their parents. This is what I can share.
I think that's great. That's very powerful, and I think the message embedded in the message that you've just so eloquently given, message for bosses out there, for husbands out there, spouses out there, that it is a team effort, and that support does require. It's a chain of people in order to be successful and have a happy family. Because at the end of the day, you're not successful unless you're happy. It doesn't matter how much money one has or doesn't have. It doesn't matter anything tangible in life, what kind of car you drive, any of that stuff. It's completely irrelevant if you're not happy. And how many rich and famous people have we all heard of that aren't happy? You can read about them all the time, right? To just pick up a magazine, right? It's unbelievable. And so I think it's wonderful. It's beautiful. You have a beautiful family and a beautiful career. Is that despite these headwinds that you've spoken about, you've climbed all the way to the pinnacle of the company. The CEO is the boss, and the CEO of a company is no different, the way I view it, than Jamie Dimon, who everybody knows is a household name, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and you're a CEO, so you're equal. And I think that even Mr. Dimon maybe would struggle in a complex economy like Turkey if that was all that he had around him, because it's difficult to diversify elsewhere. So it's very admirable to me what you've been able to achieve, and I think that's great. One last point, and then that's fine. One last point, Pamir, and then we need to sign off here. I've been talking for the past 7 days about other people's opinion of ourselves, and how do you handle that if other people are making opinions? I'm sure you've had your share of having to deal with those over time. And kind of in short, within a minute, if you could explain to the audience how you deal with other people making opinions about you.
Yeah, I think you have been talking about this subject, and it's very interesting because there is a saying I like a lot, and the saying is as follows: when you're 18, you worry about what everyone is thinking about you, and when you are 40, you don't care what anybody is thinking about you, and when you came to 60, you realize that no one has been thinking about you. So I think this is so true. I think people should really be authentic themselves. They should really follow their own instincts. I totally agree with you. I have seen some of your episodes. You need to really be who you are. You cannot fake who you are, and you cannot make something or change something for your own from your own values or what you think for the sake of others. As long as you have good values, as long as you have a good purpose, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You just need to follow your own true path. That's something I really want to share.
Well, that's wise advice from somebody who is walking the talk in life and in her career. And so with that, Pamir, thank you very much for the half hour that you've given into your evening. Now, I guess it's probably time to go home and have dinner. So Maybe
Thank
Okan
you.
is preparing dinner tonight, I hope. So anyway, thanks very much for that. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. I really appreciate that. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week, where I'll be tuned in live to Johannesburg, South Africa. And I'll talk about who my special guest will be next Tuesday. So I look forward to seeing all of you again. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.